Good morning, Devils fans. We gave up the first one again, but still end up winning in regulation 5-4 versus the Buffalo Sabres. A lot to ramble about in this one. Basically, just going to start from the top, work my way through, and hopefully hit all my talking points. So, like I said, we once again give up the first goal. But can you really blame Vitek too much on this one? I personally don't, but I've seen quite a few that do. So I want to hover here around Vitek and the goal itself, where Luke fumbles basically right at center of ice. Buffalo gets what is essentially a clear-cut breakaway, almost penalty shot-esque, from the blue line, and snipes a pretty dang good shot right over Vitek into the net. 1-0 Buffalo. Now, I know. 7 straight games giving up the first goal. It's not great, not ideal, but you also don't get 7 straight games with a guy falling over to give a breakaway. Although I think it's been a couple times that's happened to us now already early on in this season. But for me, that's stuff that's not really, trend lines. It's not systemic. It's just hockey. So I don't really take too much away from stuff like that. Now, what about Vitek himself? I'm going to be talking about him a few times throughout this video, but like I said, I don't put this one on him really at all. Breakaways, basically any sort of 2-on-1s, anything like that, you want your goalie to make those. You need your goalie to occasionally, close to 50, just over 50 if you're really good, even more when you're a top goalie. But when you put your goalie in those positions, true one-on-ones, it's not like you get super pissed at a goalie for, shootout shots or penalty shots that go in against, because the advantage is in the skater's hands in those situations, and that's essentially what this first goal was. So I'm not going to tear him apart on this one, and really not on any of the goals in this game. Yes, we did have 4 against again. Yes, I believe this one he did have a negative goal saved above expected. And yes, again, it wasn't on that many shots. Not the greatest of save percentages as well. But I take in the full context of every single one of these goals, there's not too much I can rip apart about Vitek's game. There was other parts where he didn't give up a goal, where I thought he was swimming a little bit out of the net, but that was actually few and far between throughout the game, as I think he had some stellar play that kept us in this one when we might not have really deserved it later on in the game, but we will get to that here in a moment. Now, yeah, we gave up the first goal. Said this a million times already, 7 games into the season. But I think that was actually one of our better first periods. It wasn't dominant by any means. Buffalo had their chances. I think they actually had the better of the high danger chances in the first period. But as far as actually controlling play, getting shots on their net, not letting them absolutely hem us in, it was one of our better ones. That's in contrast to basically all of our first periods just not being that good already to start this season. So it was a very low bar to clear. But still, they did clear it and had a solid outing versus a team, like I said in the preview, that has very strong first periods. Buffalo comes out really strong in all of their games so far this season and tends to taper off a bit as the game goes on, where we've kind of been the opposite, possibly peaking in the second, not this game, and then having good to strong third periods. We had a good first. It wasn't great, but it was good. You're going to take those play against other top teams, which Buffalo was striving to be this year. They're an absolute powerhouse. You should have expected a high-scoring game in this one like we got. It's really no surprise that it turned into a 9-goal game like it did. Now, we do end up tying it up in the first, which is great. You do love to see that, as Holtz, who I do want to talk about a bit here, has, I think, it sounds like pretty sure not just our commentators, but the entire fan base will agree, his best game possibly ever as a Devil. I don't think there's much argument for any other ones. Obviously, for this season, his best one, but he's really just ramped up the whole year so far, just from game 1. And surprise, surprise, you give a kid that has exceeded at every other level a chance to actually stick in the NHL and actually play him throughout games in multiple situations, and he continues to grow and continues to thrive and improve as the games go on. So I cannot wait to see what a full season with Alexander Holtz ends up looking like. He did actually, I believe, end with some of the fewest ice time in the game. That is even with Palat being in the box for basically half the game, and Nico leaving, coming back, and then leaving again with his injury. We'll talk about that here in a moment when I get to the second period. But Holtz was fantastic. I feel like he was amazing in basically all facets of the game. He had takeaways, he had blocks, he had amazing passes to set up plays. He had his own goal getting into the dirty areas in the net front. He had a few different snipes that possibly could have come in if not for some great saves there on Buffalo's side. He really did it all, playing the boards, behind the net, defensive plays, transition. There really is not much I could pick apart about his game other than I wish he would have gotten more ice, to be honest. But that being said, the only line that didn't play that well this game, as I've yet to mention his name, this might be the longest I've gone on one of these videos without saying him. The Jack Hughes line was not that stellar. Now the analytics I think actually tear them a bit more apart than I would, just from an eye test standpoint. I actually thought from that line, Timo had an overall decent game, which if you take all situations into account, he did. But purely 5-on-5 even strength, that Jack line did not cook in this one. But it wasn't all that atrocious. But each of those guys did the work on the power play. And so on the whole games, all situations, their numbers actually came out looking real good. But yeah, probably their worst actual 5-on-5 game from the standpoint that they did get hemmed in a little bit, gave up some chances. Nothing too atrocious, nothing too crazy. But they just were not absolutely dominant. Maybe I jinxed them a bit saying this line is just always going to cook and dominate every game, which they did not. But hey, yeah, I mean, that's the NHL, right? Obviously I'm being a bit over the top with some of my commentary here. If you bring it back down to earth, yeah, that's just how it's going to go. But all that being said, again, it wasn't that bad of a game from them. Eye test wise, I actually think they generated some decent chances at 5-on-5, but definitely gave up a few more than they generated. We'll still take it. I mean, Jack has arguably, probably not arguably, because just all the other games were so amazing. Jack has his worst game of the season and still scores a goal, right? So that's what you're going to get with an absolute superstar, best player in the world. And I think Toffoli probably had his worst 5-on-5 game. And I think Timo still was doing the strong bulldog stuff, being in the corners, throwing the body, loosening up the puck to switch possession. But the boys just did not really get the cycle and high chances going. It really seemed to be fumbling around with the passes, with some giveaways in the offensive zone that led to transition away and chances against. That's really it. Nothing too bad. It wasn't anything atrocious. But on to the second period. We once again give up another goal. This time it was Tage Thompson doing Tage Thompson things, doing a fairly Jack Hughes-esque type goal. We've seen him do it before where he absolutely dangles the goalie out of the net, out of position, pulls the puck behind the net with his stick to pull it around the goalie's outstretched leg and then tapping it into a basically fully open net. It's a goal Jack's done before, and it's just something some of those elite superstars can do, like Tage, although with the slow start, like I said, has been ramping up a bit, did get the goal here. Shout out my fantasy team with Tuck also getting the assist on it. But yeah, did really good. You're not going to tear apart a goalie again on that one. I mean, that's a superstar goal. Vitek basically cut off every option but the insane reach of a 6'6", insanely long stick player is going to be able to pull off with, again, wrapping it not behind the net, but below the goal line, around his pad, around his skate, to pull it back to the opposite side to tap it into the net. It's just a great goal scorer's goal, and you can't be too upset with that one. From there, Bratt, baby. Again, the untold story of the Devils. Jesper Bratt putting up another point, scores another goal. The uncounted assist to Jack Hughes for basically forcing the turnover. He doesn't actually get the assist on the play, but essentially causes the turnover with his forechecking, allows Bratt to actually get the takeaway, and then swoop in, patented Jesper Bratt goal. And yeah, you love to see it. That's what you need when you're down a goal. Some of your superstars making the plays, and that's what they did. Both of those dudes have just been phenomenal to start this year. And then the atrocious hit, obviously, that ended up leading into this. You hate to see it. It's what the 4-on-4 play came from. Nico gets an absolute direct headshot, stays down, does not look great. From the end post-game interview from Lindy, they said that he was cleared by the concussion spotters, which is why he came back, but then they pulled him for precautionary reasons because he did end up taking another big body hit. And then from after that second hit, he did look a little shaky. Hopefully it definitely was precautionary. Hopefully there's no lingering effects here, but we're not really going to know until today after almost for sure. I mean, he got cleared by the concussion spotters, but it almost looked like a guaranteed concussion type hit. I'm very surprised it even came back, but you really don't know for sure until after a night's sleep and seeing how you're doing the next day. We do have another game tomorrow. Honestly, I would not be surprised if they kept him out of that one just to be sure. Give him a little bit of a break before heading into the next game. Even if he's feeling good, I probably still sit him for this next one just to be absolutely positive. We don't need to risk him getting another big hit. He takes a lot of hits for our teams. He plays those dirty areas. He's not going to change up his game if he's out there on the ice. So he's probably going to take another shot if he plays in this next one or whatever game, every game he plays in, bound to happen. So, yeah, that's just my take. But if he's in, I love it because it just means him and the team both think he's in a great spot to do so. And I'm not going to argue with one of my favorite players, guy of his jersey, our captain being out there on the ice with the boys. So yeah, I hope Clifton has a hearing. He should get another game or two on top of it. It was atrocious, brutal, direct shot. I mean, there is no sugarcoating. I don't think I've seen any Buffalo fan argue against that. Shout out to that fan base. I haven't really ever had any issues with them. Good guys over there, as far as I can tell. Now to the actual rest of the gameplay. The second period. Oh, Malone. That was brutal, guys. We got absolutely torn apart a bit, and the reason that we stayed in that game was Vitek. It was Vitek. Shout out to Vitek. He absolutely kept us in. We got absolutely dogged in not just chances against, but actual high danger chances, expected goals for, against, all that stuff. Vitek kept us in, and we gave up multiple breakaways, 2-on-1s, high danger chances, scrums in the front, taps on his pads, all that stuff. And he basically always kept it out of the net until towards the end of the period where Dahlin slings off an absolute bomb that Vitek very, very likely saves, if not for a deflection off of Nate's leg, I'm pretty sure it was. Deflects off of him. I mean, when that puck's moving that fast off of Dahlin's stick, the fact that the goalie reacts to the shot itself is amazing, but the deflection off of a screen, off of your own player in the front, no chance. Third goal against. Can't be up. You never ever can tear a goalie apart. Ever even criticize a goal like that again. So 3-2. I hate to see it, but yeesh. Yeah, it was. It was fine. It happens. But then, was it 3-2 there? Or did we? Actually, I take that back. We took the 3-2 lead, right? They tied it up. My mistake. My mistake, guys. As Eric Haula had the shorthanded goal to give us the lead. What a game from Haula. This is where I want to talk about him. So Haula goal came before the Darling goal. My apologies. Haula, oh my gosh, it was so good. You absolutely love to see it. Shorthanded, reads the play, and just beautiful. Dekes out the goalie, scores the goal. And that's what you want on your penalty kill. I think Haula, Brad, Nico, when he's out there, and then Mercer have been absolutely fantastic at pressuring. That's what you want to see on our PK. Just don't give up those blue line entries into clear shot breakaways, essentially, or high danger chances against. If we can actually get structured in, it seems like we've vastly improved from the first couple of games. So let's stick with that. Stay with the high pressure, use our speed. That's what we got to do. Haula had just up to down, amazing game. Actually, joked in our little chat group about the Haula Mercer Lazar line being our top line because they took the opening faceoff. And well, by the end of the game, they had the most 5-on-5 time on the team, even beating out the Jack line by about 30 seconds or so. So even with Nico being out, that line ended up with the top minutes, not overly shifting Jack, who did have, again, not one of his best 5-on-5 games. So was joking about it. Funny that did kind of work out that way, but it was great to see from them. I'm expecting these lines to stick together if Nico's still in, but we'll see what shifts have to happen if Nico does miss this next one. Then we talked about the Dahlin goal. Now on to the third, where we actually took over. Absolutely dominant third period. We get the Jack Hughes power play goal. I know there was some back and forth with, oh my God, to Timo, although I don't think Timo was ever actually in it. It was originally credited to McLeod, who I don't even think was on the ice. Then it went to Foley, which I could see the argument for. You think it might have went off his stick, and then finally it does end up with Jack Hughes as the goal scorer. Again, doesn't have his best game, still scores a goal. Superstars do that. That's what you need. Power play, I thought, was actually really good on the whole from the game. First unit absolutely cooked a lot of times, generated tons and tons of chances, didn't score. Yeah, Timo Meyer, when he was on the second unit, did fantastic. Multiple chances. If it wasn't for Comrie, who did get hurt in that game, you hate those injuries where it looks like it's absolutely nothing and get taken out. I haven't heard an update just yet, so we hope he's healthy. Yes, they took out our captain Nico, but I don't wish an injury like that on anybody, even from the other team that, headshot our captain there. But yeah, Comrie did great then. Pekka Laine came in and played pretty well. But third period, we continued to absolutely cook. We did have the goal against, right? This is probably the one that you do want to criticize Vitek on, the like 1% chance, awkward angle, but you look at the replay, and I really feel like he squared up on that post really well. I didn't see a single hole. There must have been, it must just absolutely squeeze through the fabric of between his glove and his jersey. And I feel like, 99% of the time, hence why it's a 1% goal, but 99% of the time you make that save, and there's a 1% that it didn't. Yes, that's the type of save you need to make. That's the type of goal that can be a backbreaker. You just don't really can't really give up. We were able to afford to, because Eric Hall, the man, gets an amazing tip in front late in the third. Second goal, probably should have had a hat trick if not for the broken stick. But we win the game, close it out. It was a very strong third period. If it wasn't for that one goal against, we probably feel a lot better about that game as a whole. Even giving up the first again, even with the that last goal that wasn't that great. The other two there in the middle were really, really good goals. You can't be upset about. I thought it was a solid game on the whole. The second period was rough. It was basically an inverse of a lot of our games here, where the first and third were some of our best. The third period being absolutely dominant, and the second period was the rough one, where we have usually generally been very, very strong. So yeah, the team's just got to find the consistency. It's going to happen here at some point. For anyone else on the team, I thought Lazar had an okay game. It was actually probably not one of his most dominant. This is also the most ice time he's really seen in a game against tougher competition. So we'll see how he continues to play it out. I think if Nico was fully healthy, that line probably, and Jack was having a normal Jack game, that line probably doesn't get as much ice as it normally does. But Mercer was fairly solid. Still doesn't get a point, but has been, he did all right, set up a few chances, but also has some fluky passes that maybe normally last year would have actually made it through. This time got taken away. That's hockey. But Haula has his best game of the year and was absolutely fantastic. Holtz, amazing, amazing game. I think him with McLeod and Bastion looked really good. And then our top six, didn't quite find it too much 6-on-6 outside of our 6-on-6, 5-on-5. Bratt has another amazing game. Palat, when he was on the ice, looked pretty good. And then in special teams, we continue to do really well, and that's what you want to see. So I don't think the defense outside of Luke Hughes falling over had really too many breakdowns. The Tage goal was Tage Thompson being Tage Thompson. The Darlene goal was a absolute blast, deflecting off of your own players. Really, it was Luke Hughes fell down with the only breakaway. So on the whole, very happy with the defense there. Outside the second period, where we did give up a few chances, but it wasn't anything that I recall from eye test that was super atrocious defensively, structurally, from giving those up. It was just, that's Buffalo and New Jersey hockey, baby. I said it in the preview. There's going to be a lot of breakaways, a lot of odd man, lots of high danger chances for and against, and that's how the game played out. So we got the dub. We get a one-day break today. I had not seen yet as of this recording if we are practicing or taking a rest, so I'm sure that'll come out during this recording or right after. And then we're right back at it tomorrow, 5 o'clock versus Minnesota. So I think I have some Halloween family stuff going on, so I'm going to see how I'm going to work it out with watching the game. But it's the weekend. Enjoy it. I got a lot of Halloween activities going on. Weather's going to be real hot. We'll see how that does with the costumes and all that. But enjoy the weekend, guys. Enjoy the win. We're going to be right back at it tomorrow. I'll see you in the morning, as always, and forever. Let's go Devils, baby.